Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain mod for the final video of the year. Going to be ending it with a little special thing, because we're talking about Durin the Seventh, Durin the Deathless, the reincarnation of the first dwarf to awaken, with the One Ring given to him by King Edain in his older years in Erebor. And I'm going to talk about how this hero is probably just a perfect ring hero in general, as well as being potentially lore accurate. Because even though it might seem far-fetched that the Edain team made a dwarf capable of wielding the ring, and not just wield it, but have mastery over it. Not have it conquer him, but being able to use it for the good of all dwarf kind. In comparison, we have in the Iron Hills, we have young Edain, who gets corrupted and basically becomes a bloodthirsty fiend. And then we have Thorin, who becomes even more terribly dragon sick, that he can't see right from wrong, and will ruin your economy just to make scavenging, taking everything from your opponents, your main goal. But then comes Durin,
Last hollow the Longbeards and the
and there's a lot to unpack, because as I said a moment ago, that is potentially lore accurate that Durin could hold the ring. Think about it. Durin the Seventh is considered, but in the lore, in lore, to be the perfect reincarnation of Durin the First. All other supposed reincarnations of dwarves who were named Durin were not as perfect a dwarf, incapable of being a leader, as Durin the Seventh was. He managed to reclaim Gundabad, who had been taken over by orcs for generations. No one else had ever attempted such a thing, and he did it. Not just that, but then he reclaimed Khazad-dûm. And that is where he spent the rest of his days until the diminishing of the dwarves entirely. And also, again, being reincarnation of the first dwarf, Durin the First was also really, really a beast. He lived, I think, at least 2 times or 3 times longer than the average dwarf, about 300 years, I think. It might be more. But if any one dwarf could actually hold the ring and not have it corrupt them, it would be Durin. As proof as 2 of the other greatest dwarfs of of Tolkien's Legendarium, Edain and Thorin both were incredible dwarves. And although Thorin did succumb to dragon sickness for a time, he actually succumbed to his greed. He managed to overcome it and helped in the Battle of 5 Armies for his defeat. So we're going to talk now about Durin in the game. He is classified as a Mass Slayer, has a lot of health at level 10, and all his attacks knock back and do AoE. So he is really good at defeating anything that comes in his way. He also, similar to Boromir, escapes death for a long time, even if his health points are spent. Also, all nearby dwarf heroes gain armor, and he cannot gain experience on his own. Or he has to gain experience on his own. He can't share experience. And what that means is, if this dwarf unit was to destroy a lair, for example, and all the inhabitants, if Durin was simply just standing back and watching them, he would gain no experience. The dwarves would gain all the experience. Edain, if he was there, would gain some experience, but Durin would gain none. It has to be by his hand alone that he manages to conquer the corrupting influence of the One Ring. At level 3, he gains Master of Stone. He is able to, in a supposed medium radius, which is the same radius as the Earthquake ability itself, all nearby allied buildings gain temporary strength, and enemy buildings are temporarily weakened. just proving Durin's mastery over stone itself, since he was the first to awaken from the stones of the mountains. And then when we get to the main part of Durin's quest, his expedition to Khazad-dûm, where he goes to reclaim it, and then in returning becomes like his ancestor, his pure reincarnated form in Durin the Deathless the First, which, by the way, used to be the original ring hero for all three dwarf factions. You'd send the ring to one of the heroic statues, the heroic statue would awaken, and Durin the Deathless the First would reawaken. And we get abilities similar to what we have currently in our current state. He would not die after losing all his health. He would weaken enemy buildings and strengthen his own in a radius. He would make enemies afraid and heal allies with his other ability, the Word of the Forefathers. And then also release a fiery explosion in the fires of Durin's Forge, which we've all seen before. But anyway, let's start talking about expedition to Khazad-dûm. First thing, get Durin to level 5 by being able to handle the One Ring in combat. That means quite literally have him kill everything on his own. He'll be fine, I'm sure. But once he gets to level 5, you then have to have him next to Edain, the hero who you have to get Durin, because Edain will take the ring and give it to Durin. And that's how you get Durin. If you lose Durin, again, if Edain is nearby, if he picks up the ring, Durin will reappear at level 1. So after 1 minute, after holding council with Edain, you then need to select a battalion, as we've done here, as we can now do here, to take to Khazad-dûm. And then we'll be gone for a bit, and after 30 seconds, he will then return on Durin's day. You'll notice this changing in the scenery. And Durin will return, gaining improved abilities, and his scouts become veterans of Khazad-dûm, as you would expect. So, the dwarf unit has gone, and soon Durin will follow. And then he will return in a final form.
Have returned to me, my oldest friend, whom already I mourn this loss.
Yep, just need to wait 30 seconds. I'm not good at waiting. There we go.
Let's get this done.
Another thing, when Durin actually reclaimed Gundabad, he actually got a vision of his first self, because that is where Durin awakened from. Or even though he was known as the Lord of Khazad-dûm, as the greatest of the lands of the dwarves, he was originally born in Gundabad. That is where his origin story began. And it's also where one of his trusted allies was given hold of Gundabad while he reigned over Khazad-dûm. They had a bit of a falling out, and Durin's friend betrayed him, which led to a war between the dwarves.
I've instructed him to
Anyway, back to this Durin. Durin the 7th. You might notice a few big differences. One, he is clad in much nicer looking armour. And now we get to look at his other abilities. So, instead of falling for it, he has learned to control it on his own. Therefore, is aware of the temptation of the ring. Therefore, he can profit from the support and experience of nearby allies. So now he is able to aid others at the same time as others aiding him. He also gets the buildmanship of Khazad-dûm. In a large radius, allied structures are temporarily strengthened, and enemies' building structures are temporarily greatly weakened. So it's just a buffed version of what we had before. The rebuilding of Khazad-dûm. Since Durin's return to Khazad-dûm, the dwarves have regained their access to mithril. He is now able to construct mithril workshops and Durin statues, which are, by the way, here. Mithril workshop. You've got the Durin statue, which is of the basic heroic statue, just the original version, the version that you would give the ring to, and then Durin the Deathless would reawaken. And then the Durin's barracks, which, for those of you who actually remember, the old Edain used to have a power at level 10. which allowed him to make this building. And that building allows you to construct dwarves from all three sub-factions. So Erebor, Iron Hills, and Ered Luin. You get all the dwarves, all four units of the dwarves, the 3 basic units and their elite, and their infantry specific upgrade. Like for the Guardians, it's the Guardians of Erebor is the Death Masks, sharpened axes for Ered Luin, and the tower shields for Iron Hills. And the Mithril Workshop, I'm just going to go and build this quickly. As you can see, Durin goes and builds it himself. He is the build factor, which I found so unique when I first saw this. Because I was like, wait, this hero can act the role of a builder. And I thought to myself, how? How is this possible? Because it seems insane that such a thing is actually possible. I don't know how it is. The Edain team did an amazing job turning this making this ring hero feel just perfect. And then, so from here, the workshop has been made. Dwarf heroes can purchase Mithril Mail, so you don't even have to send a veteran of Khazad-dûm to the Dwarven Forge to make Mithril. But then you can build on, and it's a bit difficult because it's a very empty map. But if I had the space, you can then build ore mining facilities on mountains. But obviously there's no real mountains on this map, so... And it does have a limit. You can't like build it from far away. You have to have it somewhat close to you. Doesn't work any other way. You can see the 0 hovering over the X. Anyway, let's return to Durin's other abilities. Word of Silence. Enemy units within a wide area become afraid, while allies are healed and gain improved stats. Enemy buildings within a wide area cannot be used for 30 seconds. Basically saying all things shall kneel. And then finally, the fires of Ala's Forge burn even brighter, which is why I waited to use it, because look at that. Look at that. Even more terrifying than when a Balrog awakens. That's just the and look how much the earth has just been scorched by Durin's intervention. Let's of course then use the buildmanship of Khazad-dûm to see the shining aura. You can see the buildings on our side get a little bit brighter, a slightly brighter tint. He's also carrying the axe of Durin, which is believed to be the axe that Durin wielded in the First Age. Although it's unconfirmed, all we know is that is the axe that Balin found in Khazad-dûm before his untimely demise. But also Durin was given the red axe of Edain after Edain passed, but Durin had begun his journey to take Gundabad. So obviously he's wielding that his axe and not the red axe of Edain. Although that would be a nice touch if Edain was to die and then pass on the axe. But you know, that would be a weird thing, and it's better to have both heroes anyway. So yeah, that is everything about Durin. Incredible ring hero, incredible hero, very few weaknesses, other than obviously just having to take his time to build up. Which, think about it, is exactly the same as with Dale. You just take your time to build it up and it ends up a masterpiece. A masterpiece that just continues to be relevant, to be actively helping your faction. And it's just fun. It's just so fun to use this hero because there's no penalty. Unlike with both the other two dwarf heroes, ring heroes, they have penalties with them. Edain becomes incredibly obsessed with combat and can't heal out of combat, can only heal while fighting by swinging his axe. And Thorin ruins your economy just to make it so you get massive scavenger bonuses just by having him nearby and having the AoE invulnerability map wide. Anyway, that is everything. I hope you have all enjoyed. I hope you've all had a good year. And I will see you all in the new year. I'm not confirmed when yet. I will mention in the post everything I want to talk about. I just don't want to mention it here. So I want to get all of it written down, said, and my piece said about that. I will be back. Don't worry, this isn't like a farewell message. I will be back. I just don't know when. I want to take a little bit of a break for myself. But anyway, farewell. And we'll return.